We also advertised it on social media. Madam Clerk, are we ready?
We're ready.
Perfect. Is Zoom running? Okay, perfect. First off, I'd like to welcome all of you and thank you for being here. It's truly a privilege to have
Recording in progress.
Mr.
Better late than never.
Commissioner Menendez. I love the fact that you're here. Good. So as I was saying, thank you to the clerk, thank you to staff for putting this together. I want to thank my colleagues for being here. Most importantly, I want to thank you. Thank you for being here. We need to have more sunshine meetings. I'm going to be calling a sunshine meeting for code enforcement probably in September, and I asked that my colleagues join me. But today we're not talking about code enforcement. Today we're talking about something that is long overdue, and that is the north corridor of our city, which I believe we've been making some very positive strides lately, and I think that we're going to see some great things coming to fruition in the north area of our city. Just to kind of give you a little bit of a recap of where we stand and certain things that have happened in the north that I think are important to mention. I'd like to recognize Nick Cabrera, who's here today. He's the gentleman who brought me the idea of the farmers market, the second farmers market, which we brought to fruition, and I think it was a success. And as a matter of fact, a lot of people are sending me emails looking forward to the second iteration that is forthcoming. We're working on the median, the North Ponce median, which is forthcoming. That's already budgeted, and I think it's going to be a great addition to the north portion of our city, and long overdue. We also have several parks that are forthcoming, some of them that are parts of development, and others that this commission was able to negotiate, which is the 37th Avenue and Alhambra section, which I brought to the commission, and we were able to purchase that lot. And it's going to be a beautiful entrance feature. And it also was able to kind of stop a project that was planned for 37th Avenue and Alhambra. And Zuli brought the idea. Thank you. I'm sorry, I apologize. Douglas. Thank you for the residents. My point is that Zuli brought that to my attention. We had about a year-long, 6 months to a year negotiations, and we were able to purchase that about 2 months ago. So that is a welcome addition. It's not only that, it's, yes. So that was important because now we have an entrance feature in the most northern part of the city, and it was long overdue. And it was important to that neighborhood because, again, certain people were confused whether that's Coral Gables or Miami or an incorporated. It's Coral Gables, and we're proud of that. Another thing that I think is important and why we're here today is to really discuss and to listen to what the residents want and put it on the record. Obviously, there are budget shortfalls coming out of COVID, but we've seen a pretty significant increase in property values over the last 2 years. But we also have to be careful. We can't overspend. We have to be thoughtful that we as a commission and as a city are fiduciaries, and we have been very thoughtful and methodical in regards to how we spend our monies. But with that being said, we foresee the largest growth forthcoming in North Gables because there's an opportunity for growth, and it's an opportunity where you have a lot of working class people who are very proud of those neighborhoods. And we need to make sure that they have the proper infrastructure and they have the proper quality of life, which in my opinion and the opinion of my colleagues has been missing for a long time. So with that being said, I want to make sure that everybody has the opportunity to speak today. We're here to listen. We're here to have a conversation, to memorialize this discussion, and then move forward with the city manager and his team along with the commission and start putting forth a plan that will meet your needs or any interests that you may have. They could be larger projects like the medians or landscaping, sidewalks, and they could be simple things that could really address concerns that hopefully will increase the quality of life for the people for the residents who live in that neighborhood. Before we get started, I don't know if my colleagues want to say anything. I welcome comments.
I just want to comment that...
by the way, I'm sorry. I apologize.
No problem.
Before I forget, I also want to recognize Commissioner Cabrera, who's here with us today. Thank you for attending. I know he's a resident of that area, and we're blessed to have him here today.
I just want to say that for as long as I can remember, going back many, many, many years, I think back in the day when you coached me, Ralph, at the youth center, there was always talk about the North Ponce area, the North Gables. that's the area that the city is going to focus on. That's where they're going to move a lot of their resources. And time has gone by, and little piecemeal changes. And I'm not blaming anyone. I mean, there are reasons, like the mayor said, the pandemic, but even before that. So I'm excited for all of you, because I feel not only the commission, but the administration finally they've come together to realize we really, really need to deliver, and we need to focus all our efforts. It can't be, hey, we did this one project and we move on. It's something we need to spend our time doing. The potential is great. I mean, I believe for that area, there's certain pockets of Coral Gables that you don't need to leave that area at all during the week, because it offers you everything you want, from shopping, from eating, and you have your residential family life to enjoy. So hopefully we can bring that kind of experience, that kind of balance to your lives, and really bring that area up to a level where, not only you want to stay there, but people want to come there and spend the rest of their lives enjoying that lovely part of the Gables. One assignment that I've been given, I'm happy to say, it's at some point in time, I'm going to see what we can do about Phillips Park, which is basically in the heart of your area. Phillips Park, I said last commission, is almost exactly the way it's been since the 1970s and 80s. But it has so much to offer if we do things the right way, not only for kids and families, but seniors. It's an area we can program. The city can provide programming. So again, you don't even have to leave your area. Everything you look for in terms of community is offered. So I hope to bring back to the City Commission a funding mechanism so that we can move that forward, because that too has been on hold, like I said last time, since the U.S. beat Russia in Lake Placid. That's how long it's stayed in limbo. But we're here because you're important, and your area is important, and you're part of us, and hopefully we get things done and you're happy.
It's just for the record, it's, as I'm sure some of you know, the better part of my Coral Gables life has been also in the North Ponce area. Our law firm's located for almost 30 years there in the North Ponce area. We travel up and down the other side of A Street to Flagler. And yeah, since we've been there for so long, we've attended many community meetings throughout the years where things were planned and discussed, but haven't really happened. And I do think that although we do have budget constraints, I do think that this commission, or at least the core of this commission, I would be willing to bet is the one that's going to ultimately, I should say, deliver on that area.
I'm going to just dovetail on your statements here. It was probably about 15 years ago when a Renaissance project was coming through that I asked, when the trees were being put in, when are we going to do it for the North Gables? These areas with a lot of asphalt that are so desperate for some shade and some trees. And the statement I received is, well, that's next. Next came and went, and here we are now. But we do have opportunity because we have projects coming in, and with some creativity, I think we can get this done now. The main thing you all want is what we want to hear: greenery and trees. I know it felt like when I biked it this weekend, a 20-degree difference between areas and the rest of the Gables that are shaded in your neighborhood. So let's get going.
All right. The first individual we'd like to hear from is Zuli Pardo. I took it as they came. I don't know if I should go from...
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners. It's great to be here with our neighbors. By the way, thank you. Thank you for all the hard work that you did for us, especially with that historic gateway lot. That was a great achievement. I mean, we have folks here. I've been living in 49 Campina Court for 40 plus years, and that gateway has been waiting for for this moment. These folks, they're 50-plus years, you know, in 58, the terra firmas, 58, 50, Ponce, yeah. And, you know, it's wonderful. But that being said, thank you for this opportunity. You know, we had the 2019 vision plan, and that kind of like went on the wayside because of COVID. And so this is wonderful that you're offering us this opportunity to listen to us. I think with respect to ponds, for me, a treescape is so important, and maybe some traffic calming techniques could be placed. I feel that we don't need anything with, it should be, since we are on a budget constraint, something more on the simple side. It doesn't have to be curving and trees and, no, I feel we could add trees within a straight line. We don't have to make it so difficult that it'll be extremely costly, and then we have to wait 3 or 4 years down the road. I know we have a neighbor here, especially that lives in Bobadilla. There we have that issue where the traffic comes all the way from Douglas and crosses over to Bobadilla and then onto 5th Street to connect to Miami. Maybe we need maybe a circle or some kind of traffic calming in that area, especially that street. These folks suffer every single day, and you see it. People running through there, you know, they come down our streets because they want to cross over to Lejeune or to Flagler, so they're trying to beat the traffic because it's busy on 8th Street and on Douglas Road. So that kind of like sizes up, I feel, in general. Without going over budget, I know the vision plan was wonderful, but I know we're not going to be able to do that at this point. But if we could do some streetscape that would bring down, as Commissioner Anderson was saying, you know, would bring down the temperatures, make it, just by adding streetscape, I feel it would be a more residential, and it would probably add to some of the traffic calming as well. But yeah, it doesn't have to be complicated. It can be simple in a straight line, and add trees and make it beautiful. And my flags, please, and I'm still waiting. That's on a side note. But anyway, thank you for the opportunity, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, please. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Cabrera?
Good afternoon, members of the commission. Ms. Terra Firma, good to see you.
Nice seeing you too.
I didn't recognize you with the mask on.
I remember it's been a long time since I've seen you.
I see Mikey all the time.
Good, Michael.
Yeah. Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be with you. I am going to specifically touch upon the issue that was recently brought up in the last Planning and Zoning Board meeting as it relates to the Northeast Quadrant, and specifically on-street parking. As much as I empathize with the Northeast Quadrant of the residential section, I'm really going to focus on my particular neighborhood because, for the record, I live at 1300 Ponce de Leon Boulevard. And forgive me for giving you a little history, but back after World War I, this city supported developers to build multifamily residential in the Northeast Quadrant. After World War II, the same thing happened. And it happened once again after the Korean conflict. This area was a perfect place for young families to move into the city and hopefully afford single-family residential. I lived there when I first came to this country in 1966, so I know the area. And today, as a 64-year-old, I live there now. I specifically wanted to address the issue of on-street parking because I also remember in the late 90s, early 2000s, that this commission approved the Streetscape Landscape Master Plan, which was romantic, which was exciting, which was going to call for a walking city. Except that we overlooked one very important thing. You can make the best dog food in the world, but if the dogs don't eat it, it's no good. And we don't live in a walking city. Savannah, Georgia is a walking city. I can name 10 others. Coral Gables, unfortunately, is not. It was the westmost city in Miami-Dade County in the 20s. It is one of the most eastmost cities in Miami-Dade County in present day. Having said all that, we know that traffic is going to be with us as much as we dislike it. As this lady pointed out, the traffic calming needs in the Bobadilla area, I remember well working on that many years ago, and the county simply wouldn't approve it. But Mayor, with your leadership, I'm sure you're going to change lots of that stuff moving forward.
We'll try.
Bottom line is that we have consistently and systematically removed on-street parking spaces since I can remember. Now, let me give you another statistic. About 9 years ago, the parking department did a study and learned that in the downtown area and on Ponce, the revenue generator for on-street parking was approximately $11,000 a year. You might want to check with Kevin Kinney on my numbers. So each and every time we get a new development, any portion of the northeast quadrant, which is the most transient part of our city, we do away with on-street parking, and we build these gorgeous bump outs that are a wonderful haven for rodents, insects, and cigarette butts. So I ask you, because most of you saw the message that I sent earlier this week to the planning board chairman, I ask you to closely look at the landscape streetscape master plan, because it's highly antiquated, 22 years antiquated, and perhaps understand the importance of that public commodity known as on-street parking, because the transient behavior in the northeast quadrant calls for these old buildings that were built in the 20s, the 40s, and the 50s and early 60s, where most households had only one car, not two, like we have today, and in most cases, three. So I ask you to look at that closely, because as a member of the northeast quadrant south of 8th Street, we have a serious on-street parking problem affecting that particular zone of our city. Anyone have any questions of my comments? Because I tried to cut them down because I don't want to steal everyone else's opportunity to speak.
You mentioned dogs, so I'll let Commissioner Anderson go first.
I mentioned what?
Dogs.
I don't think so, but I will.
I think
Dog food.
dogs eating,
Dog
whatever.
food.
Oh, the dogs,
Yeah,
the
so
dog
that's
food,
a
the
cue that
dog
she
food.
goes first.
Yeah, the dog food. You can make
I
the
was
best.
listening. I was paying attention.
Thank you. You used to listen when I coached you.
I know, that's why I'm good.
And I'm younger than he is. I don't understand how I coach this guy. I'm like 10 years younger than he is.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? Uh-huh. So, believe it or not, I'm actually older than him, too. So,
I don't believe it.
so while I had my opportunity to serve on the Planning and Zoning Board, and my father-in-law had 4 buildings in the North Gables, very, very close to where you're at, I always made it a priority that even though our parking requirements have been reduced on these buildings, to make sure that we bump them up inside of the buildings that were coming in, the new buildings. Because you and I know that all these historic buildings have 0 parking.
Right.
None. One of the units that my father-in-law owned was at 102 Minories. There's a 12-unit building of efficiencies. And you know, with the restrictions that people have on income now, they're probably filling them with 2 people apiece and each taking a car. So we're kind of stuck with some of our parking issues, but for people wanting to bring projects in, how do you feel about them adding additional spaces inside of their buildings in order to help solve some of this on-street parking issue?
Commissioner, I think that's a wonderful idea. And in fact, your Planning and Zoning Board approved something similar to that this past Tuesday. I think the number was 10 parking spaces. Right. However, that's simply not enough. Now, I'm a big supporter of what you all do, and Mayor, the mayor leads the charge as far as creating green space. Don't misunderstand me. I am not talking about losing green space. I'm talking about losing the valuable public commodity. Right. Because, Commissioner, unless you advertise it, they won't know. They won't know that there's 10 additional parking spaces. And we have so many people coming in and out of our city on a daily basis. My own building, 1300 Ponce, has 125 residential units and 4 commercial units. There is absolutely no guest parking anywhere around my property, our property. Therefore, people park on street. So I hear what you're saying. I applaud your efforts to get developers to agree to public parking, but they've got security issues when it comes to public parking. They have challenges because they also want to keep their residents, those people that are buying their units, from having outside folks that don't necessarily live there. A perfect example of that is 55 Merrick Way. 55 Merrick Way has a public component. Nobody knows about it. Very few people know about it. Those that visit Baptist Hospital Diagnostic Center know about it because Baptist Hospital does an excellent job of advertising it. Otherwise, people don't know. So I think it's a wonderful idea. I applaud it, but it needs to be put out there.
Needs to be put out. That's why I've asked, and of course I was on planning and zoning at the time, so nobody really pays attention to you there, to put signage out there.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, with the parking reductions that have happened over time, the people building these buildings expect to be able to use the public parking, which is already overburdened in that section. So I'm glad you brought this up. Thank you.
Thank you. Incidentally, Mayor Lago and I just happened to see each other early this morning, and Commissioner Commissioner Menendez. I almost called him Mayor Sleznick. Commissioner.
You are getting old.
I am getting old. Check out my latest Facebook post. I got memory insole shoes, and now I can remember why I went into the kitchen. So I hear you. My point was, the mayor, Mr. Lago, and I saw each other this morning, and we ran into you and your lovely wife. And by chance, we ran into each other again. And I have to just make a sidebar. The mayor was very busy this morning taking photographs of the northeast quadrant of our city. It's practically a mess. And I say north of Southwest 8th Street, there are many opportunities for improvements with signage, with cones, with public right-of-ways that have not been addressed correctly. So I also ask you to really get behind code enforcement, to do perhaps a more concentrated effort in that area. Commercial vehicles parking in residential zones, really, really an important area. And yeah, that area may not be the hub of electorate, but they still deserve the attention that we need to be giving it because it's the most desirous area with wonderful connectivity to downtown Miami Beach. We've got Douglas, we've got Lejeune, we've got Southwest 8th Street, and it has a wonderful infrastructure.
It does. It has an amazing infrastructure, and there's so much that can be done with the area. And I agree with what you said in the 20s, 30s, 40s. Look at homes near the Granada Golf Course. They've added circular driveways the last couple of years because you looked at some of those houses, they have room for barely one car. Because like you said, back in the day, folks didn't have many cars or if any cars at all. And so in my area where I live, on-street parking is vital because it's all basically room for one car. So I totally understand the value and the importance of on-street parking. Now, a question for you, Ralph, is when the developers come with a plan, with a project, and then unveil it, that part about the bump out and that part about taking away on-street parking, is that driven by the developers or is driven by the city?
Kirk, I assure you that if you talk to any developer, they will tell you that it's a request by the city, and it's driven by the current landscape master plan for the area. So they not only have to do it as a request by city staff, they have to purchase those parking spaces in perpetuity. So they have an outlay of cash. On top of that, when they sign the covenant to the property, they have the maintenance requirements associated with that front area, cut out, whatever the bump out may be, public right of way. And in some instances, they don't have that responsibility. There have been covenants that have been approved where the city takes that responsibility. So forget the comments about the rodents and the insects and the cigarette butts. Category 2, Category 3 in those areas brings down trees. Yeah. And here's the irony. Boston, Atlanta, Charlotte, so many other cities throughout our nation have been able to create shading on sidewalks without having to create bump outs. Because incidentally, the majority of the bump outs have Persian palms. They don't all have shaded trees. Some do, but a vast majority don't. And you know how difficult it is to walk around in Coral Gables in the summertime. That's why I applaud your efforts, and I commend the efforts of my past administration, because when we approved some of the developments on Ponce, the very few that I personally approved, not the 17 out of 34 of the tallest buildings, because I never did that, but we created loggias and walkways that were covered so that people could benefit from it.
And not that, I mean, back in the day, there wasn't even the canopy we have today. So the effort over time has been very helpful, I think, for our residents. But I would love to find a way that we can find a balance, because I think we're all in agreement. We want more green space. We want more canopy. But there must be, especially with the density in the north part of the Gables, the density on that side is not the same as the southern part of Coral Gables. You know, properties are more distance one from the other, but historically, the North Gables has always had density because of the multifamily. So there must be a balance. I would love to find a way that maybe as an administration, as a commission, we can find a new way to provide canopy and green space without obviously taking what is so needed, which is parking.
If the political will exists, it'll happen.
That's exactly it. So when projects come before us, or before this body, we need to make sure, as we do in all the other projects, and this body has done it on multiple occasions, where we require shade trees. We've been very clear about palm trees, no more palm trees. We've talked about developers. If you're going to come to the city, make sure you work with the residents and you provide a park, an open space. As you can tell, that's happening throughout the city with projects that are being brought before the commission. And these projects are garnering the support of the residents because they understand. And we're also having very candid conversations with residents, where developers are explaining, if we go additional floor, we can make the building tighter, opening up more green space on the ground floor. These are conversations that we need to have, because if not, developers can go setback to setback and just build a building that has less green space. And, you know, I think that's the community suffers in the long run. But in regards to the parking, it's an issue of political will. We've said it, look at the last few projects that have come before us. We have required traffic calming, the Madeira project, the project at, the land sale to Doctors Hospital. We required that the parking be done. We required that a portion of those monies be used to buy more green space. So it's up to the body as a whole to basically require shade trees, require parking, require traffic calming, and those are things that I think we can do, and we're already doing on projects. But
Mr. Mayor, one comment. Of course. I did not mean to insinuate that this commission approved all those palm trees. We know where they came from. I want to just be clear on that. And in many instances, you don't even see the landscape material, because if the project is a project that does not require any special or is as of right, and we all know what that means, you'll never see it.
perfect.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Commissioner. I
Thank you,
appreciate it.
ma'am. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for being here.
Turkey, thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks, Coach.
I appreciate you. Next, we have Vicky Busseau.
Hello, everybody. Am I in the right meeting? Because I'm here to talk about the Flagler neighborhood north of 8th Street. I mean, I thought that's what this was for. I didn't realize they were going to talk about parking south of 8th Street. So am I in the wrong meeting?
No, I mean, I just think that we can have a discussion on anything that you like. At the end of the day, that deals.
All these neighbors are here to talk about the Boabadilla neighborhood, the Flagler Terrace neighborhood. We're not here to talk about parking or people's parking issues or need for more parking south of 8th Street.
If you could be so kind, if you would do me a favor,
Yes.
I don't think there's a reason to get upset over it. I think that we can have a discussion, a respectful conversation.
That's
You
what
and I,
we came here for.
you and I have met multiple times. Every time that you've called me, I've met you on site. We've addressed issues in regards to your neighborhood of overdevelopment, of cutting trees down. Thank you, Mr. Manager. Thank you for joining us. I know you're in a meeting. I appreciate that. We've discussed a litany of issues that were important to you. And I welcome any conversation, if it's about parks, if it's about landscaping, if it's about trees, if it's about issues of anything that deals with the North Gables area, we welcome them.
Thank you.
So how can we help you today? What can we
So-
talk about?
We're all here, we're talking about the neighborhood north of 8th Street. We've had two projects in that area, one in 2015, one in 2019. They were meeting with the neighbors. They asked us what we wanted. We talked about canopies. We talked about narrowing the streets, because the streets are very wide. We talked about traffic calming. And so that's what we're here to talk about today. We're hoping that you'll place this on the budget so that, we're hoping that you'll put this on the budget so that money can be allocated to do some of the improvements that we've talked about before. We've been waiting a long time, as you all seem to recognize. We're not interested in parking south of 8th Street. We're interested in our neighborhood. We're interested in traffic calming. As Zuli said, on Boabadilla, there's a huge amount of traffic. There's no left turn onto Boabadilla, and yet people turn left. They speed. There's no traffic bumps. The streets are really wide, so people feel like they can speed, and they do. And that's the issue also with several of the other streets. They're very wide, so we need more canopy. We need a median. Those are all the things we need, and we're hoping you'll put them on the budget. And hopefully this time, they will allocate some money, and hopefully this time it will happen. We're very happy about the park. We're very happy about the park.
For the people in Zoom, they want to hear you too, so that's why we need to be close to the mic.
Okay. We're very happy about the park on 37th Avenue in Ponce. We think that's awesome. But again, we're hoping you will allocate money and make the improvements that we need. Like I said, a canopy, more greenery, narrowing the streets, and traffic calming.
Are
Thank
these
you very much.
projects? Oh, go
So
ahead,
the reason
What?
why we're doing this today, and the reason why I called for the sunshine meeting and my colleagues are here, is because this is a priority for us.
Good. I'm glad. We're very happy
So-
about that.
But I will have a sunshine meeting. I will run a meeting where everybody feels comfortable and can talk about whatever they like. So if you want to talk to me right now in the sunshine meeting about, I don't know, flowering trees next to Merrick Park, I'll talk about it. I don't care. Just like I do open door Fridays every Friday for the last 8 years, just like we have an hour before every commission meeting to talk about issues, because again, there's a lot of things that people say about government, lack of transparency, lack of interaction between the elected officials and the residents. We forget who we work for. You want to talk for 1 hour about something that interests you and your community, I will talk about it. And I know that my colleagues will stay here for 2 hours. So this is a priority. This is why we're here. Just like when Zuli came to talk to me a year ago about this piece of property, it's a priority. Just like when you came to talk to me about the wall and the illegal tree that was being cut, and we met in the neighborhood and we addressed the developer who owns that piece of property on 8th Street, and we held them accountable on issues, and we wanted the landscaping done properly, we got that done too.
We did.
We got that done too. So this neighborhood is not forgotten. Trust me, this was a priority for us. And we're going to address the issues of the landscaping, and we're going to address the issues of the median, because it's well deserved. It's a long time coming. And I give you my word on that.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Kirk, Mr. Commissioner Menendez?
Yeah, my question was with regards to, maybe the manager can answer with regards to the speed calming devices or things that are being requested. Are there particular projects in the pipeline that we have already assigned to that area that we as a commission can sort of bring further attention and focus and resources to?
I would have to look at that, Commissioner. We have divided it into 5 areas in the 5-year plan, and we have to look to see where that area falls into, to see if we have traffic calming. And if the traffic calming qualifies based on our Dade County MOU. So I am not sure if that area is in one of the zones. We have to
I know the mayor's done a phenomenal job taking the
We
lead.
have done it based on residents' requests.
Yeah.
With the resident request, we go out, we make sure that we have our traffic counts and make sure that we comply with our, because we can't put traffic calming where we want. We have a mutual, we have an MOU, and that MOU with Dade County is
and I want to just, to get some traction on this, and I'm sure we all agree, if we can quantify and identify particular specific things, projects that the city can do to move this forward, we need to be able to package it so that we can look at it and we can hopefully push behind, push those projects forward. I agree with you, that strip, that area, the cars speed from one point to the other. It's common sense, it's understandable, but we'll need to find a way to identify specifically what it is that we are able to do so we can do them.
So,
Oh, thank you. Very, very carefully, because the more traffic calming we do, the slower response times for police and fire are. So we have to be very careful that we don't, so we work with police and fire to make sure that our response times are not affected. Minutes are very important if you have a heart attack, if you have a stroke, and so forth. And police response time is also extremely important. So we also deal with that, because if we put traffic calming on every street, you can imagine how long will it take a rescue to get to you. And so all these things have to be looked at, and that's what we're doing when we're doing these traffic calming studies. Do they qualify? And also we've got police and fire involved to make sure that we adequately respond. And we've got some of the best response times in the county, the best response times in the county. We want to make sure that we maintain those.
Mr. Manager,
Right.
quick question.
the,
Could I just want to ask a quick question, and maybe you're not gonna be able to provide me an answer today, but just provide me an answer at your leisure. We have a traffic calming plan in place. We did a study. We have 5 different sectors or areas which we are doing it in, the most need first, all the way down to areas that obviously have the less issues with congestion and speeding. I would like to know what this area was rated. Obviously, it wasn't in the first area because the first area is already being accomplished. So I would like to know if they're second in line, third in line, and what the plan called for in this area.
We'll talk with our transportation engineer to give you that information.
And
So I'm going to send it to you and to the
that's
commission.
number one. Number two, maybe instead of a speed hump, maybe we can do a roundabout in certain areas, which I think could also play dividends. And I think that's a good opportunity. Commissioner Anderson?
yeah, just the one area where the roundabout is discussed or needed is intersects with a county street. So that adds additional layers of complication to getting it approved. So I'd like you to report back to us as to what we need to do.
With roundabouts, we asked for 50% vote around the roundabout. Roundabout is also a traffic calming issue. It's also a problem with fire because our trucks have to mount those. And so we have to be careful that, so we need to make sure that we look at that because a truck can't make it around. So it has to mount it, so it has to stop, mount it, and slow down. So there's always, the devil's always in the details, and we have to make sure that we don't do something that adversely affects something that's so important as police and fire response time. So we'll be happy to give you that information, Mayor, to you and the commission.
Thank you.
On that, but just to know that it's not quite just putting everything out there. We have to look at what the consequences of what we do.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. We have Carlos Sardinas. Thank you for joining us. How are you, sir?
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor.
What would you like to talk about today?
My neighborhood.
Perfect.
Commissioners, Mr. Iglesias, thank you for giving me the time to address you and to talk to you about something that's personal, and that is North Gables. My wife Isabel and I, we have owned our home since 1987. We have seen our son grow up from 4 to 37, 38 years old. We love our neighborhood. I have a cousin who is a Vietnam veteran that lives in Winter Haven, and he's come down here a couple of times and spent a few days in our neighborhood. And he says, you're lucky. He says, where you live, the North Gables, it's almost like a small town. You feel that good around here. People know each other. Everything is stable. Crime is relatively low. So that's something that I appreciate, and I love my neighborhood. However, we have been trying to be involved with our neighborhood since before the plan that somebody mentioned here, before 2015. We have heard from the city many different times, have heard of many different plans of the beautification of the North Gables area. What have we seen? As somebody has said here, I think it was former Commissioner Cabrera says bits and pieces here. Ponce de Leon, north of 8th Street, it's almost like Indianapolis Speedway. Okay, I was run over by a car 3 or 4 years ago at 8:30 at night, trying to cross Ponce to take our dog for a little walk. What happened? That particular area where I got run over, the lighting is not the best, and the lady wasn't paying attention. Okay, thank God she was only going at a very slow speed, but traffic is horrible. In the past few weeks, we have seen something that we had never seen before, and that is people from other parts of from other areas besides Coral Gables. People that go in and they drink beer in an area where the house might be abandoned or not occupied. The lighting is not the best. Transients, homeless people that, I mean, I have nothing against them. They're human beings like we all, but they just go to a tree, sit under the tree or lay under the tree, and they spend the night there. This is an area where near the park, the Rotary Park, I have notified the police department several times about this. And this is an area where families come around with children, and the homeless person, you can smell what they have been doing. So this is an area that I would like to address. The fact is, my first point earlier was that we have heard of many different plans. We have participated in the giving opinions on all of these plans, but the response has been slow, to say the least. And, you know, I'm 74 years old. I would like to see something happen before I reach 80. I'm being honest, okay? I love my neighborhood. I would like to see the improvements come along. And I do agree with Mr. Iglesias as to the roundabout on Ponce. That's almost no idea. That should not be done because it interferes with, as you say, with the emergency vehicles. But, you know, something to slow down the traffic there. I'm not an engineer. I am not a city manager or city planner. I'm just a retired history teacher that lives in that neighborhood.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
I think I know that. Well, first off, the part about the park, that's very concerning because, like,
Yes.
so children and families go there, and you should be able to go to the City of Coral Gables Park and feel
I'm
safe.
sorry. And by the way, that Rotary Park has no light. It has been addressed to the commission, to city officials before. Still doesn't have a light. And people go there to do weird things at different times of the night.
And my other question, well, my question is, I think I know the answer. You know, traffic and increasing traffic in Coral Gables everywhere is noticeable.
Yes.
And everybody's worried about it. And I say, like, I think it was Ralph Cabrera said that back in the day we were the westernmost city.
Yes.
Now we're one of the easternmost cities, but still people move from downtown to the west part of Dade County where the large segment of the population. So we're like the creamy middle of the Oreo.
Correct.
They keep on cutting through Coral Gables, so I'm sure that's part of it. But is it your impression that the increase in traffic and increase in speed is, I would assume, is cut-through traffic, trying to get from point A to point B?
That intersection that was mentioned before, Ponce and No, the one that. Okay. It's, whenever we walk our dogs, I have to tell her, stand here, and if you see that car across Ponce, wait for them to go through, because they just cut through, make no signal, and then it doesn't matter that we're pedestrians walking, they just cut through, and if I don't pull her back, they're gonna run us over. Yeah. Happens every day.
And it is a long stretch, wide, long stretch, so they pick up speed.
Right, correct. So this is, again, I'm not a city planner, I don't know, but I am aware that there's a problem in my neighborhood, and that's one of them.
When I was with the mayor, and I think it was Commissioner Forrest, we did on the trolley throughout Coral Gables.
Yes.
We saw a lot, we learned a lot, and a comment I made about the area you live, and I go, this area reminds me of the Coral Gables that I grew up in the 1970s. It's almost a snapshot.
Right.
And if it's a snapshot, that means I would think a lot of things that other parts of the city have benefited from haven't quite trickled down or trickled up, in your case, to the North Gables, which now I understand what that impression was. It was almost like a 1970s Gables. So you make great points in the part about the park in particular. I didn't know about it, and I don't think anyone else knew, so that's something that...
It was addressed to the city officials a few months ago.
Okay.
I've got some notes on that, so we'll take it. I will say that when we do the traffic studies,
Yes, sir.
one of the biggest issues we have has, not in every area, but in many areas, have been not speed but volume.
Right.
That we have such a large volume of cut-through traffic that it appears to be fast, but it's just the number of cars. And that's been our biggest issue, is that cut-through traffic, where we have certain equipment that picks up the volume, the speed, and so forth. And what we find is that in many areas what we have is a volume problem.
Right,
So let me give you some hope.
right. Before, I'm sorry.
I'm going to give you some hope. Once upon a time, Segovia used to be 4 lanes of asphalt. And due to a project that came through, we got the funding to put in the median and some shade trees. And it used to be palms on either side.
Yes,
The fact that you can narrow a road is in itself traffic calming. So by having a grassy median there and adding the trees, it automatically kind of gives that driver the feel
yes,
that they got to slow it down.
we
So we
agree.
can take this a step at a time and tackle the big item first.
Sure.
We do have projects coming in. And then I was just a regular resident back then, and we utilized a lot of the money that came from that particular project to get Segovia down. And I tripped and fell on that Segovia Street one time while walking my dogs. Okay. And my husband told me he got a ticket when he was a young man going 50 some odd miles an hour down there because it was so much asphalt.
Sure.
It just felt like you could go fast. And you'll notice that when cars do speed,
Right.
they generally don't stay next to the edge of the road. They go to the middle because they feel more comfortable achieving those speeds away from driveways.
Right.
So I think getting the first step done, let's see what fruit we get from it.
Right. Mr. Iglesias, one thing that she just mentioned, because you talk about a traffic study in our area, the plan that she referred to, there was a traffic count done in my block. What happened to it? Because, it was done.
Well,
And
that's what I asked for in regards to our traffic calming initiatives, to find out what the findings were
Right.
in regards to that study, and what phase are you in currently? Phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, so we can get an idea in regards to what was prescribed in regards to traffic calming.
I do thank you for your time.
No, at all.
Thank you. But again, for somebody like me, who is a non-employee of the city, just a resident, an old retired guy, progress is slow. Okay, we talked about that, the plan you mentioned. 15 years before, we've been sitting with city officials about the beautification of North Gables, and we're still waiting for it. Please help us.
Isabel Sardinias, please. Thank you for being here. What would you like to discuss?
Thank you so much for seeing us today. My husband and I have lived in that area for more than 35 years. Talking about projects that you were mentioning, my husband and I pushed for the trolley to be in that area a few years ago, very much. And it's a very slow process, everything that we get for the North Gables area. We definitely need lights in that Rotary Club park. We have children with mothers, young mothers. We have sometimes fathers with children as well. We walk our dogs nightly, and we see things that no young children should see in that park. Please, there are things. So we need lights in that area, totally. We also need that area that we have, the streets between 8th Street, north of 8th Street, and they are parallel streets. I live on 48 Fonseca. This is going back to the beautification more than 15 years ago. They are all the streets that are parallel to 8th Street, Fonseca, and all the others, right? We need something to be done, again, about the speed and the volume of the cars. These are cars that are coming from Douglas, and they are cutting through close to 5 o'clock because they want to get to Lejeune or get on Ponce and go who knows where. So we need something to, I understand, not close those streets. I know that. But remember when we talked about putting at the end of each of those streets a little area of land, of grass, so that it will deter cars from speeding. We need to do that. We won't have roundabouts, but we would have other measures. We mentioned at that meeting before COVID that we mentioned that you would extend, I believe, the sidewalks and plant some trees. I remember that neighbors in our street were choosing, I like this type of tree and I like this type of sidewalk. Whatever happened to those plans from that meeting? And that was pre-COVID, so it hasn't been that far off. You need to go back and search. And it was a meeting at UM, at a place close to UM. Carlos, do you remember where it was? By the basketball courts. We had a meeting in there, and everyone came from the north area. And we remember that we had all the streets, and we could choose what type of foliage we could have so that it would narrow the streets, so that it would deter people from speeding, not having roundabouts, not anything that would not have a fire truck go in.
Do you recall the origin of that meeting? Was it a city-driven? Was it a private
City.
party? Was it a
It
UM?
was a city-driven meeting.
City-driven?
City.
Can I address some of your points just so we don't get lost? Let's address some of the points, then we'll move on to the next things. Mr. Manager, this morning at 7 o'clock in the morning, I had a meeting with Commissioner Regalado. I wanted to show her Monegro and what we did in regards to Monegro and the 5 dead ends that were there. Do you think that we could potentially install the light posts that have the cameras that we did in Monegro, maybe one in this park, so that we could be filming continuously what's happening in this park with a small sign that you are being filmed, which I think will pay significant dividends. Let me tell you why I think that's important. Number one, it's not that expensive, even though it costs money. It's not that expensive. We can find the money for that. But as we were having the meeting today, because there was a little bit of hesitation in regards to applying the same things we did in Monegro to a gate in Snapper Creek that I've been working on for a while, I was blessed to see the following things happen. Number one, a bicyclist used the gate without a problem. Number two, I have it on video. Number two, a pedestrian walking used the gate. And number three, I had 2 sets of residents that live adjacent to the gate come out and tell me that the gate, along with the light and the camera, have changed the quality of life. They have not had anybody coming to their house to scope out to see whether somebody's there. They haven't having any issues in regards to theft of packages. But more importantly, as you're aware, they used to have people park in that dead end and engage in certain acts along with drinking. That no longer is an issue because they're aware that they're on their camera. And nobody wants to park a car or have a party in an alley and do things, illegal things, if your face is on camera. So the people who are crossing from another municipality into Coral Gables, that's the reason the gate is there. It's wide open, there's no lock, they open the door, the camera is there looking at them, and there's a light. So that's a very simple deterrent. We can put that in the park. It can add illumination, and it can add a camera review. Some people don't like Big Brother, but if you want a deterrent, when you put a sign that says you are being watched,
Correct.
at the end of the day, people will not stick around because they do not want to be watched.
Also, as you said, Mayor, the lights are very important.
Okay.
To get that park illuminated so the police can see inside.
So
So I will look into both issues. Lights, I have in notes lights, and I'll add cameras
so
too.
we're in that budget season. We can just put that same beautiful light that we put in Monegro that offers that type of service. So we can do that. So let me get back to the other point. I don't remember. I have the study on my desk. I have to go get it. Do we get an idea of a budget number for all the bells and whistles, what the price was for that?
We don't have a budget number because we never got to finalize what the residents were looking for.
Okay.
But I know it's gonna be high because it's a lot, it's a big area. So it'll be in the millions, but I don't know, we haven't determined the cross sections or because there's a number of alternatives there. And I remember that Dover Coal was involved years ago, if you recall. So I don't think we ever reached a design, so we could actually price it out.
So what I would like to do, with the support of my colleagues in the commission, is I would like to have that finalized. Have it finalized, get a price, and then come back and say, what are the most important parts of this study in phase 1? And see what it will cost. Obviously, we know it's shade trees and traffic calming. See what we can do in the budget process to start the ball rolling in regards to that. It's gonna cost money, and it's gotta be a priority. So that's what I would like to do. At least with something finished and concrete that the residents have signed off and said, this is what we want. This is phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. We can start working on things.
We can look at budgets. We can also look at, is it going to be part of city, part assessment? I think there's a number of things that we need to look at.
I think you're 100% right, but the first and most important next step is getting the plan finalized. Once we have the plan finalized, then we can move forward, kind of like we're doing with Build More Way. Build More Way is the same scenario. They want medians, they want landscaping, they want foliage, they want traffic calming. Okay, perfectly fine. Look, here is what you're asking for. This is what it's going to cost. Now, how do you want to move forward? Special assessment, the city pays for half, the city pays for it all. But we don't, again, we can't print money. We're not in the federal government, and I don't want to raise taxes. So we have to be very honest what we are. So we have to make a decision. We just came back from the federal government.
Projects, Mayor, as you know, are going to be costly.
Yes, they are, of course.
Be costly.
So, but we can do it in sections, and we can see what we can do. But I think the most important thing, with my colleagues will support me, is getting the plan completed.
Let me look back and look at that initial Dover Coal study. I think they initiated, but then we had other issues that did not move forward. And then let me look into that, and I will get back with the commission.
Please, go ahead, excuse me.
Is there any way that we could prevent cars going on Ponce north, like trying to look for Flagler, not to speed? Because this is what my husband was saying. It's like the Grand Prix.
Okay, but let me be honest with you. Let me be honest with you. And I want to make sure that you remember this, what I'm about to tell you, okay? Just so we can be, because this is what, a lot of these elected officials, they'll tell you, well, I'm going to work on that for you. I'm going to get that done for you. Under no circumstances will the county allow us to close streets.
I didn't say close, Mr. Mayor. I said like to slow the cars down, like put some kind of signs, maybe.
Signs? Okay.
I don't know, like speed. Signs.
To be honest with you,
No,
don't work.
don't work.
Okay. What we need to do here is very simple.
A cop?
You want a permanent cop there, and I mean, we can have a cop there for a little bit, but then eventually they can't be there full time. So what I think we need to do, is be realistic. Let's finish the plan. And address traffic calming. I've asked. We're budgeting for traffic calming.
Okay.
We're budgeting for traffic calming. It's in our budget. I need to understand where your neighborhood falls as per the traffic calming master plan. Dude, are you in phase 2, phase 3, phase 4, phase 5? Where are you? So I need to look. I've asked the manager to find out for me where you are, and then I will say, okay, well, you're in phase 3. We finished the plan. We use some of the funding that we have. We start budgeting, and so we can start bringing some of the wish list to fruition. But we have to be honest with ourselves. A sign that says slow down is not going to slow anybody down. Okay?
Are we going back to the plans of pre-COVID, of beautifying all of our streets?
What I
Well,
want,
we'll find out what that Dover Cole study is and
Please.
see where we're at on that.
what I would like to do is sit down, finish the plan,
Okay?
sit down and say, what is the residents' priorities? 1, 2, 3 different phases, 4 different phases, depending on funding. You could be requesting a project that could be worth $25 million. And I don't even know what it is right now. I need to have numbers. There has to be actual facts. I can't just say that I'm going to deliver on traffic calming let me give you an example. When I sat down with Julie, and Julie brought me the project about a year ago, and she says, listen, Vince, let's buy this piece of property. We did a plan. We sat down with a developer, and we said, let's do an estimate. Let's do an appraisal. You do an appraisal, I do an appraisal, and we'll meet somewhere in the middle. There's an appraisal, there's a plan. We knew what to pay. I don't know what things cost now. I don't want to give you a false impression of what we can do in the next week. I think that we have to take this seriously and move forward on this issue and make this a priority. But I think the right thing to do is like what we're doing with Build More Ways. Put a plan together, finish the plan that we started. Finish the plan. Understand what the residents want. Understand what is a priority to the residents and move forward on that. I really don't think signs are going to work. We can put a police officer handing out tickets, but it only curbs it for a few moments. And traffic is like water. It's always looking for the path of least resistance. So people are going to cut through our streets because of a litany of different things that we're facing here in this community. A lack of actual infrastructure in regards to transportation, the congestion, the amount of people that are moving into this community. So we can't stop people from coming into the neighborhoods.
Right.
I live in front of University of Miami. Trust me, I face it. Let me give you an idea. Ready? Riviera Country Club, Doctors Hospital, University of Miami, St. Augustine Church, and the school next to University of Miami. And I have Westlab, and I have US1 next to me, and 57th Avenue on one side, and Bird Road on the other side. We're surrounded by major thoroughfares, plus the thousands of kids that go to UM, and the daily masses that happen at St. Augustine, which I have no problem, and all the people going to Doctors Hospital. I live right in the middle of that. It's okay. It is what it is. We chose that neighborhood, but we have to address things appropriately. Okay? So just bear with me. We're doing this meeting today to do things the right way. Okay?
Thank you. Thank you for
At all.
hearing me.
Please, at all, my pleasure. Orestes Terraferma. Yes, sir. It's you. The floor is yours.
I have one question only. When are you going to pave that section from Salamanca to 8th Street? It's awful. Bombi all time. I don't know. It's awful.
Okay, so you, Mr. Manager, did you get that?
Salamanca to 8th Street.
Okay, we will take a look at it tomorrow.
We're
We
gonna send a
will
crew.
take a look at it tomorrow with a crew, and we will see the extent of the work that needs to be done and address it with our paving subcontractors and contractors that we have.
It's awful if you drive there, which I do every day, you know.
Okay. But also, can I be candid with you?
Yes.
May I? Okay. If you go to Alhambra, near the bridge, near the little bridge, before you get to Bird Road, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
It's a little bridge. That is probably one of the worst roads in Coral Gables. The asphalt is destroyed.
Yeah.
You know why it hasn't been paved in a year? Because we've been planning for 5 years to add a little median, a sidewalk. So why would we pave that, waste city funds, and then have to come back and destroy it to do it? So I want to look at the study, see what happened with the study, see where we're at with that, and see if, instead of paving it in a month and making you happy and then having to destroy it later and wasting those funds, maybe we do something where we're able to address traffic calming. But if I know that we're not going to be able to address traffic calming in your neighborhood, we'll find a way to get it paved, okay?
So you're talking about the
I'm just trying to use
area-
common sense. That's all I'm trying to use.
No, I know, that's the only section to finish your ponds.
Yeah.
They fix all the rest one.
I understand.
Salamanca to 8th Street, where they beautify everything.
Thank you.
If you're talking about the area south of 8th Street?
Yes, South 8th Street.
Yeah.
8th Street to Salamanca.
Yeah.
Salamanca.
Yeah, it's the only section left that he never fixed
All right.
so many years. He did
Okay.
one section at a time.
Okay.
You know what I'm talking about, right?
Oh, I do.
It's very bumpy.
The silver lining, and it's just to make you laugh, is it does slow down cars.
Somebody told me they were going to start this year, I don't know, March.
I will find out. We have it there written down. I'll ask the public works director through the manager and make sure we can get that addressed.
All right, thank you.
At all, my friend.
I
Thank
have
you.
that written down, Mayor, to
Thank you.
check.
Miss Terraferma, please. Evelyn?
I've lived at 208 Ponce for the past 58 years, since 1964. And I mean, my husband said about the street on Ponce, it's terrible. They keep filling the potholes. I mean, it seems like you're in a covered wagon when you're driving on that street. I mean, I'm hoping that you all can do something about it. It's awful. So,
Absolutely.
as I say, I'm in the area for all those years. So before that, I used to live on Ponce between 37th Avenue and Flagler, where the Publix is. That's where I grew up. From when I was like 5 years old till 23. 23, I did a big move. I went from 112 Ponce to 208 Ponce, so I know the area very well. So anyway, I'm hoping you all can do something about that street. It's terrible.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much.
No, at all. Please, thank you for being here with us.
Okay.
Have a wonderful evening. Mr. Nicholas Cabrera. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, sir. Members of the commission. I'd like to begin by thanking you for having the Sunshine meeting tonight. Hey, Dad, remember when you put me in your chair and we'd play Bob the Builder? And you'd talk to me and I'd be up there? Well, that kind of prepared me for this evening. Good afternoon. My name is Nicholas Cabrera. I live at 45 Antilla Avenue, which is in the heart of the North Ponce neighborhood. And I want to thank you very much for taking the time to listen to all of our comments this evening, not only those regarding North Ponce, but also those north of Southwest 8th Street. I want to take a moment to recognize the wonderful aspects of the North Ponce neighborhood. And I want to do that by addressing 3 to 4 different businesses that are in this neighborhood. And the reason I do that is because this neighborhood is developing its own economy, and it's starting to become almost a second downtown area. And I think that has a lot to do with businesses like Market Kitchen, MKT Kitchen on the corner of Ponce and Mallorca. Businesses like Tinta y Cafe, which just won, what is my understanding is the runner-up for the Michelin stars of Bib Gourmand. Businesses like iDesigns, which just moved into a venue right there on Ponce de Leon, and businesses like By Designs Jewelers, which I believe you were visiting this afternoon. We have a really great neighborhood, and I'm very fortunate to have been able to move there right in the peak of COVID. I had just moved back to Coral Gables out of college. I graduated from Flagler College in St. Augustine. Naturally, I studied political science probably against your will a little bit, right? And I'm lucky because, as my father said, he moved to this neighborhood right out of Cuba, coming to this country when he was 8 years old. And I got lucky to have found a unit right there in the same neighborhood. And I walk everywhere. I walked here today because there's no need for me to get in my car. I have a Publix around the corner. I have a mini Target around the corner. I have Market Kitchen to go have breakfast. I have Tinta y Cafe to go have breakfast. It's perfect. And I found a home in this neighborhood, and I couldn't have chosen a better place to come back to. But there are three issues that I think are of importance. The first, which a lot of folks here have addressed this evening, is traffic. Ponce de Leon Boulevard is the gauntlet of death. It's scary. I don't like crossing the street. I don't like riding my Vespa on the street. I don't want to ride my bike on the street. And that's because people just don't respect the speed limit. I honestly think 35 miles an hour is way too fast for that road. And not only that, but the triangle visibility coming out of certain streets is atrocious. If you're coming out of Mallorca, right there next to MKT, where I sit outside and have coffee, where Mayor Lago and I have sat outside and had coffee, you will, within 5 minutes of sitting down, see cars almost get into an accident. And not only that, but a few months ago, an older woman was crossing the street and she got hit by a car. That shouldn't happen. And that corner in particular is probably the busiest of them all. You've got the elementary school right down the street. You've got the Target, and you've got restaurants and businesses. So I think that traffic is something that we definitely need to address. The second, and Mayor Lago can attest to this, is the trash along the bump outs and on the curbsides. In my street alone on Antilla, there is one complex that on any given night has a pile of furniture just thrown on the sidewalk. I can't understand why. And I can't understand how code enforcement doesn't address this issue. It's something that we need to take care of. And aside from that, the small pieces of trash that we see in the bushes and along the sidewalk, it's just not good. And I'm very grateful to our city for organizing things like the downtown cleanup. It's been very great for bringing our neighbors together in an effort to revitalize, refresh, and clean up our neighborhoods. But something needs to be done about the trash along the sidewalk in those areas as well. And then Commissioner Menendez, I appreciate you taking the opportunity to talk about Phillips Park. We need to do something about that. Yep. The weeds, it's unacceptable. And I have already received an email from a resident regarding Phillips Park and its unkeptness. Yep. I have addressed the Parks and Rec Board about this issue. I serve on the board on behalf of Commissioner Mena, Vice Mayor Mena. And I think that this is something that needs to be addressed as soon as possible. I don't want to hear excuses about it. I want to see it taken care of as soon as possible. So the point of me standing up here is I'd like each of you to consider me a resource with regards to the North Ponce neighborhood. Although I'm only a tenant and I pay only rent, I would like to stay there permanently. As you know, my father lives immediately across the street from me, which I'm very fortunate about. We get to spend a lot of time together. But I would like to be able to assist each of you in any way possible with addressing the issues and probably coming up with ways to resolve these issues. And I say that for my neighbors as well. So thank you all for giving us the time to speak this evening.
So before you leave,
yes, sir.
First off, thank you for being here.
Oh, and thank you for acknowledging the harvest market. I think it's been a great asset to our neighborhood.
It is. It's bringing a lot of value, and I appreciate you bringing it to my attention, bringing the idea forward. You brought multiple different things that I think are all very important. But I would like to say something that this commission has been working on that we're going to get done, and we're going to get it done soon. It's already in the budget this year. We're going to remove the reason why there's a lot of garbage that you and I have picked up on Ponce is because many reasons, but one of the reasons why is that a lot of it's not visible because the planters are way overgrown. They haven't been replanted in 15, 20 years. So when you have low-lying brush where you can see the mulch, you can see the garbage, it has to be picked up. So the landlord, the business in front is going to go and pick it up. They're going to go and pick it up, or the neighbor that lives there is not going to live like that. They're going to say, I want to pick up that garbage. I want to make sure it's not there overnight. It's visibly, it's just an eyesore for our community. As these hedges have grown, and they're just basically a lot of them are less leaves than actual trunks. The trunks are massive. we have come to the conclusion here in the city that we're going to replace a lot of what you see there, both in the median and on the bulb outs. They got to go.
Yeah.
You know, when you go in front of Zuka, it's embarrassing when you look at what Zuka has in front of their restaurant. I mean, all you see is probably trees that haven't been replaced in 25 years. They barely have any leaves, and they're all just, you know, massive in nature, the trunks. And it's just, in my opinion, not what Coral Gables standards are. So all that area is going to be replaced, and we're going to put new landscaping. As you can see, it's already happening in Merrick Park because we held them accountable. We told them it's unacceptable for you to have the landscaping the way it is on Lejeune, and it's unacceptable on Ponce, and that's being taken care of. And that's going to happen all the way down, and that's something that's going to beautify the neighborhood completely. And it's a long time coming.
I look forward to that. And I think that you made a good point, which is, and perhaps I'm interpreting it in a different way, I think the businesses need to be provided the proper resources to take ownership of their neighborhood. Yeah. I see that as particularly in downtown Coral Gables.
And by the way, another resource and another very strong position this commission has taken, and I'm proud to say that I brought it forward, was that starting June 30th, twice a year, every business is going to be required to pressure clean their sidewalks. No longer. If you're a building, if you're a building on Billmore Way, if you're in Edgewater, where I lived, you're gonna have to clean your sidewalks twice a year. It's a minimum. June 30th is the deadline for this, and then 6 months after that, you're gonna have to clean your facade. We're going to address these issues. When you mix the sidewalks with the new landscaping, it's gonna breathe new life into that area. And we have the median that's been planned for the rest of 8th Street, which is forthcoming too. So there's things in the works. You're gonna see that area kind of come back to life, and then we gotta address the issues on the other side of 8th Street, which we're gonna address. And that's why we're having this conversation today. So listen, keep pushing forward, keep sending ideas, keep sending me code enforcement issues that need to be addressed in the neighborhood. I'm sending them forward, and we're addressing them.
Great.
One of the issues that I saw today that was incredible, I've never seen anything, a proliferation of signs everywhere. There's signs everywhere, leaning on trees. I sent today about 25 photos of cones all over the North Gables, just random cones on corners, no left turn, no right turn. So projects have been completed, and the signage is just left against a building, a barricade, and hopefully somebody picks it up. I sent that today. I had some time in the afternoon, and I went and I drove all of North Ponce, that area, and I started working on it. Please, I ask you, you all have my email, you all have my phone number, send me all the issues that you see, and I'll have code enforcement take care of it. If we do not hold people accountable, our fellow neighbors, our businesses, if you see things that are not appropriate, you need to submit that to the mayor. It's very simple. You can call me, you can send me a text message, and I will address it. Because if we do not do that, we become like every other city, and we're not like every other city. So, thank you very much.
My pleasure. And I might sound a little partial, but the project cleaning of the sidewalks makes a difference. I arrived home this afternoon, and I live at a quaint little building. It's kind of like Cheers. We all hang out by the pool and have little happy hours. And they were pressure cleaning the sidewalks outside of our building today and yesterday. And they were trimming our hedges, and we know how to take care of our space. And I think that other businesses and apartment complexes and condos can do the same thing. It's very easy.
June 30th is the deadline. If not, there's fines.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it, and please spread the word on that. Moving on, we have Zuli Pardo again.
I'm sorry.
At all, you can come as many times as you like, please.
Just to clarify, I know it's late in the day.
At all, please.
But just recently, one of our neighbors wrote in, I think included all of you and Public Works, and it was Mr. Estrada. I don't know if you remember his name. He lives on Fonseca, and he was asking about the vision plan and so on and so forth. And the response that he got was that Public Works was doing a study, was looking into our area to see what they could do. Maybe Mr. Iglesias can expand on this, as far as the streetscape, adding canopy, maybe to the median, within budget, not going something crazy as the vision plan was looking at, but adding trees, canopy, and again, the traffic calming. Is this what the mayor was speaking of?
No,
with
I believe
respect
the mayor was
to
talking about the study that was done pre-COVID, and we really have not, and that study started, and I believe it was Dover Cole that started. we can get them to finalize it, but we need to have a plan as to what we do, because as the mayor said, we can spend 3 or 4 million, we can spend 25 million. And so we need to have a plan to understand what the residents want and how we're going to fund it, right?
Right. So
Right.
what I
So-
understood from that email was Mr. Iglesias said you were rethinking
We are
and
going
coming
to,
up with a,
we're going to reinitiate that to see if we can come up with some final, with something to finalize it better, so we can get some cost involved.
do you think that our area, the Flagler Street section, which by the way, as you all know, is a historic area because we brought the trolley back in 1924, Mr. Merrick brought the trolley from Miami to Miracle Mile. But anyway, do you have like a timeline for us, or how should we follow up with you?
We don't have a timeline, but we will get back with you on that. If the commission, we have that Dover Coal report, we can look at maybe finalizing that, and we can come back, and that's what Public Works is looking at, to try to finalize.
Yes.
Get this finalized to get to the commission so we can finalize. At least we need to know what you're looking for. We need to price it, and we need to look at different alternatives.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be something crazy expensive. Just by adding canopy, we bring down the temperature. It gives us a more, if you want to say, more residential look. And in and of itself, I believe it
I believe
would
those
calm
discussions
down the
back then
traffic
looked
a little
at
bit.
different elements, from anywhere from minor work to complete reconstruction. So I think there was just too much of a range, and I think we need to bring it down, and that's what
Right.
Public Works was talking
Maybe
about.
do something more on the minor side, not complete reconstruction. And I was also thinking, what are your thoughts on perhaps, I know I live on Campinas, so Campinas and L, but we have a median where everyone comes over to walk their pups. We even have doggy bags and the trash cans. For the folks that, for example, like the Sardinias that come from Fonseca, how about a crosswalk, a simple crosswalk? It doesn't have to, I mean, I'm sure there's different types of crosswalks, but there may be one that would be within the budget where they can
Those are things that
safely-
we can look at, where there may not be signalized crosswalks, for instance, can be $500,000 or more, non-signalized crosswalks. So that's why I think we need to look at it holistically, get this done, and then look at what plan we can afford and what plan we can do, and the funding, right? How are we going to fund
Right.
it?
And with
And I believe that's what Public Works was trying to
trying to
explain.
look at, right? Okay, so we basically we're just waiting. We don't really have a timeline, just,
So we don't have a timeline.
Right,
But I've asked
but
the
be
manager,
patient.
I've asked the manager to make it
All
a
right.
priority. Don't forget, we worked on the park together.
I know, Mr. Mayor,
Park
thank you.
delivered.
And
We got the
believe
park
me,
delivered.
we are so appreciative of
No, but
that.
trust me, I think I've built a little bit of trust.
Yes,
I know
you
it's
did.
I know it's
No, a
tough.
lot.
I know it's tough to trust the politicians. I know.
No,
I
but you
know.
were unwavering and the commission,
But you did doubt a lot. But it's okay, Zul, you can admit it, it's okay. Even though I've answered your emails for years, and I calls and text messages and all,
Yes,
you doubted. It's okay, it's in our nature, we doubt, especially the politicians, we doubt.
No, I have to tell you, from our first meeting, as soon, and this is for a true story, as soon as he saw it, he said, this doesn't work. This cannot happen. So,
But you still doubt it.
no. No, I mean, you always are nervous because you don't know how the other party is going to react, but you did it. Thanks to all of you. All right,
So I promise you, it's a priority. We're going to get the proposal completed. We're going to also get a quote to install a light with a camera
park.
at the park. I think it's a win situation. If somebody doesn't like Big Brother looking at the park, I don't know what to tell you. At the end of the day, we've seen big benefits in regards to the Monegro 5th Street entrances. It's paid a lot of dividends. I don't get one email in a year from a resident having an issue there. I have one more person that I would like to speak.
Thank you, sir.
Zuli, please. Federico Estrada, who's on Zoom. Mr. Estrada, the floor is yours. Thank you for joining us. Mr. Estrada, can you hear us? Madam Clerk?
Trying to get him.
No worries, no worries. Take your time.
I was, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we do. The floor is yours.
Yes. Yeah, sorry, I was just unmuted, so that's why it took a little bit. And thanks, Julie, for the shout out. And thank you, Mr. Major, and everyone today that it's in the meeting. I want to make this quick. I know that a lot of people have been speaking about some of the ideas or projects that I've been thinking about. And I put a list together and put it on the chat. So I think that it's very valuable for the Flagler section, the trees all around. I think that's the priority, the way I see it. The shade, the canopy, just so it's nicer to walk around this area. In addition to that, the North Coral Gables entrance feature. I know that the lot is already purchased, so I'm very excited to see when and what is going to happen there. Is there going to be some sort of grant that we're going to pursue? Is it going to be funded by the city? Are we going to participate with ideas to get that entrance up and running? Third place, the Rotary Park. I know that there's a little spot for kids. I think it's up to three years old. I have 3 kids. My eldest is 8. And it would be great if there could be options for kids older than 3 years old to play in that park. Our daughter always likes to go to bigger parks. It would be nice if we could just stay around this area instead of driving, which it's not a big drive, but it'd still be good if that park could be enhanced for other ages. We spoke about lighting. I think it's critical that we get trees trimmed down there in the Rotary Park. Also a crosswalk. I think that a crosswalk is needed, especially because sometimes when we're walking towards the park, it's hard to stop in the median and then see the cars. It's curved, so you have to time it right. And I'm usually walking with kids and my dog sometimes, and it gets even trickier. And it's just a dangerous area to cross in Ponce de Leon. And just having a crosswalk there with the lights, when you click on it, the lights flash. I think that's what we need there. The other idea is bicycle routes. I know that this goes into construction. I still think that a bicycle route there would be amazing. Thinking forward of making this city more pedestrian, bicycle route there, it's definitely something I would like to see. And in addition to that, there are a few bus stops in the Flagler section. So if we could have shaded bus stops with seats instead of just the post, also big gains there. They're not necessarily critical, but I see that people use them. I use them sometimes, and even people that visit me and just get on the trolley, they use the trolley a lot. So just having those trolley stops there with shade and seat, it'll be great. And then also the clinic that is on Flagler and Ponce, there's some sort of traffic jam that is generated there. Excuse me. And if there could be some sort of solution to have avoid cars stopping outside of the parking lot, or just stopping traffic, it would be very helpful because it generates stoppage, congestion, and it's just not a nice area to drive around. Last but not least, I've been thinking if, for example, myself, I live in Fonseca. If I want to broaden my driveway, is there a project? Is there like a boilerplate project? Hey, I want to put a driveway that's 2 cars wide. Is there a pre-made project that I can just go to the city and say, you know what, I'm in, I'll pay whatever the fee is, so I can get that driveway also. And even landscaping. Like me, I don't know how many other neighbors also have landscapers do their yard and their front yard. There could be a program where we can just pay to the city land for landscaping, and then if we have specific projects, that's something that could also be handy. And that concludes my list. I don't know if you want me to repeat or if there's anything else that you think of my inputs, but I think overall I found very positive that we are having these meetings. There is a community vision workshop already underway. Ideally, I would love that to happen the way it was planned. Option 2, and I'll continue to just write emails like, where are we on this? I understand that sometimes committing to things that are not completed is hard, but we need to put our put our foot down and say, okay, this is what we're going to do. Phase 1, 40%, phase 2, another 30%, and phase 3 is going to be the remaining 25%, and it's going to take 3 years. Fine, just put pen to paper, commit to something, and then we can track against it. So thank you, everyone.
Mr.
Back to you, Nate.
Mr. Estrada, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, just a request, if you'd be so kind. Can you memorialize this on an email and send it to the commission and the city manager so that I can make sure I hit all your salient points? That's number one. Number two, in regards to your driveway, I need a little bit more information on how to address the issue with your driveway. We have certain regulations in regards to the width of driveways. So if you would be so kind, you can come and visit me in office hours tomorrow starting at 2 o'clock. I can have you sit down with our city architect. I can have you sit down with some of the permitting department. You can have a discussion with them on how to move forward. Is that fine?
Yeah, it sounds good.
Okay. Another thing that I wanted to mention is we have people from this neighborhood here. Something that I'm advocating for. I'm going to take advantage of it. A few years ago, I made the crazy decision. I made probably one of the craziest decisions of my life, even crazier than running, that I was going to get rid of my trash pit. I held on to that trash pit like it was like one of my children. It was just as important. I loved the fact that I could go there and throw a pizza box, or maybe throw a palm frond. It was mine. The trash pit belonged to me. So we have this thing called the City Beautiful. And we're not the City Beautiful. We're not. Because trash pits take away from our brand. I got rid of my trash pit 5 years ago. It was liberating. I have a beautiful swale. I got rid of my trash pit, and there was no mornings where I would wake up and there would be 30 poop bags in my trash pit. I got up in the morning and I missed the poop bags. I missed the illegal dumping that would happen at my house. 200 roof tiles that were dumped there on a Saturday night. I missed them. I missed the roof tiles. I missed the random people who would come and they would drive and they would open up a white truck and they would come out of a white van, random people, I don't even know who they were. I missed those people coming and rummaging through my garbage looking for recyclables. People who I didn't even know who they were. I missed them. I'm joking, obviously, I don't miss them. If you want to beautify your neighborhood, it starts not only with the city, but it starts with you. Let me tell you how liberating it is. When you get rid of your trash pit, your gardener can take the landscaping. If you have a palm frond, you can put the palm frond, your landscaper can take it, put it on your side yard. If you have, for example, a chair you want to throw away, you can put the chair in your driveway. If you want to throw away a nuclear reactor, put it on your driveway, we'll take it. If you want to throw a refrigerator away, put it on your driveway, we'll take it the night before after 6 o'clock. When you get rid of your trash pit, we will fill it in for you for free, and we'll put grass. And I promise you, the more people start, at a minimum, joining trash pits, you and a neighbor can have one instead of having two back to back. It's the more sustainable thing to do. It's the more beautiful thing to do on behalf of the city. And it's actually incredibly liberating when you don't have a trash pit. We don't need them. There's no use for them. And we're one of the few cities that have trash pits. We offer you the opportunity to recycle anything you want 2 times a year. I think it's 2 times a year. You can bring anything you like. We'll recycle it for you. And if you have something you want to throw, just put it on your yard, on your driveway, and it's taken. So I wanted to bring that up because we're talking about beautification, right? We're talking about doing things to make our city better and your neighborhood better. Think about that. And call me and I will fill in your trash pit. Probably not myself, but one of our great employees will go out there and take care of it. If you want me to do it, I'll do it also. But with that being said, we've learned a lot today. I think we reinforced the fact that this neighborhood is in dire need and has been waiting a long time for beautification and for traffic calming. I give you my word on behalf of the commission that we will address this, but we have to be honest with ourselves and we have to finish the study. We also heard from a little south of 8th Street the issue of ensuring that parking, on-street parking, is maintained. That is critically important. I agree with you, and it's something that we need to work on, and we need to make sure that we hold developers accountable as more and more of these buildings are potentially redeveloped. So I think it was a very productive meeting. I think we learned that there's an issue at the park. We're going to try to apply the same thing that we did for the Monegro, and I recommend that you go. If you get a chance to swing by Monegro, you'll see 5 exits that I worked on 5 years ago. It took me about 3 years to implement it, and it's been incredibly successful, and it's beautiful, and it's well done. And that light post not only offers light, but it also offers security with a camera, and I think it'd be perfectly placed for this park, which has a little bit of a transient population that's maybe doing some unsavory things in this park. So with that being said, I hope I didn't miss anything else. I don't know if anyone else has anything else to say.
When can the neighbors and the residents hear back from the city with regards, at the very least, the park, because I think the others have multiple parts to it, but the park lighting, cameras, you had suggested, safety measures, I think we need to get back to them.
Commissioner, I'll look into that right away.
We can have, maybe these individuals can choose one person to be the lead, and that person, I nominate Zuli, who does a great job. And it's a pleasure to deal with you, by the way. Thank you.
And you're a great Facebook friend of mine, so.
And you could be the point person. You could be the point person to push on these issues. And I promise you that we'll give you an update in regards to, at a minimum, the park issue in the next few days. And we'll also give you an update in regards to where we are in regards to the study. And we'll tell you, listen, the schedule, it's going to take 2 months to finish the plan. We'll give you a plan, a schedule. No, I just gave you an example. It'll take 2 months, and then we'll make sure we bring it back, and we'll have another sunshine meeting to go over the results and to see where we're at. Maybe we need more input. Maybe we need to refresh. Maybe we need to go back to the community and have more discussions. And I'm a fan of that, because at the end of the day, you don't want people to say, hey, that was 2 years ago before COVID. Things have changed. Needs have changed. The neighborhood's changed. New people have moved in, and they want a voice.
I would like to look at the old plan, and then we could even recirculate it around, and people can say, yes, I like it, or no, I'd like this changed.
Okay.
Zuli has a comment.
I have to speak to the manager. He's going to contact the consultant. He's going to, I mean, listen, there's so many things that I need to get a refresh. I need to get a refresh on that.
The park's the part that I know they can do fast.
Right.
Yep. I will sit down, along with my colleagues, will sit down with the mayor, with the manager, excuse me, and we'll have a discussion to see what is the budget in regards to what's being proposed. I understand it's a need, and we will take a look at it. But I promise you that the issue that you should feel safe in your community. I give you my promise that the poll will be done. The poll will be done, just like I gave my word that we would buy that $750,000 piece of property, and we did. So let me have a little bit more. Give me some time to finalize the budget in regards to the park and see where we can find the money. Things are tight. Don't forget COVID and a litany of things that we're working on right now. Security first. Well, listen, I want to say thank you to my colleagues. I want to thank all the residents, Commissioner Cabrera for joining us. I want to thank staff for making sure that this went off without a hitch. Our city manager, which we're grateful for your hard work and your commitment to the city. Thank you, along with our city clerk. And we ask you to continue to engage with the city. You have a voice, and we give you many different opportunities to Tell us what you want to see from your city. But I'm asking you to please help us. Help us with code enforcement issues. If you see things happening in your neighborhood that are not up to your standards, call it in. A cone, a sign, a broken sidewalk, call it in. Call it in. Please, I ask you, send it to me. I'll take care of it. You all have my cell phone number. Thank you. God bless and have a wonderful evening. Take care and enjoy your summer.